Welcome to my kitchen. This morning we're going to make some homemade sauerkraut, and this is the easiest recipe for beginners. You only need 3 ingredients and everything in the list can be altered. First, you need to wash your hands and environment really well so that the bacteria in your hands and around your kitchen doesn't interfere with the probiotic benefits of the sauerkraut. In a minute, there's going to be a list of materials up on the window. Feel free to pause when we get there. But I would like to also remind you that if you don't have any of the items, aside from the cabbage, the salt, and either an apple or a pear, everything else can be substituted, maybe except for the knife. So take a screenshot now, and let's get started. First, you need to chop your cabbage in half and remove the core. Make sure you bless or thank your cabbage before you chop it. Then I'm going to set aside the outer leaves and wash them and wash the apple I plan on using. I prefer to use organic cabbage, but if that's not within your budget, don't worry about it. It will still be better than anything you could get from the store. Either way, it's important to wash your vegetables. Now I'm cutting the apple just into manageable chunks for my food processor. You can use a mortar and pestle, a food processor, a blender, really anything that can make applesauce, even a food mill if you'd like. And now we're going to begin slicing the cabbage. It's important to go in the direction that I am showing here. I also like to cut the whole pile in half, as you can see in this clip, so that there are smaller chunks. But there's really no science to this part. Once your cabbage is sufficiently sliced, here I break up some of the larger pieces and then I start the salt process. This is the really important part. To be on the safe side, I always add 2 to 3 tablespoons of salt. This is a little bit more than 2% of the weight of the cabbage typically, but it allows for a crunchy and really savory sauerkraut. I love it. Here I'm using a kraut pounder, but you can use really anything. I often use my hands to do this. And look at how far we've come. Now we're going to blend up the core and the apple so that we can make a pulp. I prefer to use filtered water for this process, but if tap water is all you have, as long as it's drinkable, it's fine. Wash your jar of choice. I've used old salsa jars, so it really doesn't matter. Just something that you can make airtight. Now I'm going to continue to pound the sauerkraut cabbage down with the applesauce that we just made. The applesauce acts like food for the probiotic bacteria, allowing for the cabbage to be fermented without using things like whey or other additives that stores use. Now the hard part's over. You just pack your jars. And I take the leaves that we set aside and I snap them on the veins so that it bends and stays in its shape. But if you open it up, the cabbage will still be a whole leaf, like it won't fall off. I just fold it to be just a little bit larger than the mouth of the jar, and I push it down in. The point is that we want all the cabbage to be below the liquid line. Sometimes I need to add more liquid or pour some out, and that's okay too. Now I wipe the rim, and I'm going to weigh down the cabbage with a smaller jelly jar, but you can use a fermentation weight, clean rocks, you can use water in a baggie, whatever. And I screw the lid on tight, and the kraut is done. I'm going to repeat the process on the other side, but throughout the week, burp the jar at least once a day, which is where you open it to let air escape, and then you have sauerkraut.